Hello everyone, this is Chris from Craig here, and I'm back with another video for the Teenage Engineering EP-133 Knockout 2. And this video is going to be some tips and tricks, things that I've learned as I've been making music with it. Some of it is directly from the manual, some of it I just found through sort of experimentation. And if you found any tips or tricks that I don't cover in this video, please go and message down in the comments and share them with everybody. I'll probably make a follow-up to this with more stuff that I find, because I'm finding stuff all the time. So let's get started with a very, very simple one, and it's handy, but again, I've not seen it anywhere. The USB can send data, and we're going to come and talk about a bit about that later on, but it can also send power. So when you've got it connected up with USB Type-C in here, then it will use the power over the USB Type-C rather than your batteries. So if I disconnect this, you'll see that the little battery light comes on, is draining the AAAs. If I connect this, it will be, they won't be doing that. So that's a very handy thing. It'll save your batteries, right? And so if you're on at your desk or wherever you're using it, and you've got a USB power bank, you can connect up like this. So that's a nice handy thing. The next thing I want to talk about is something that on the surface is quite dull, but actually is very, very useful, and that is system settings. So there's lots of different system settings, and it's about accessing those quickly. To start with, let's see, we can go in, and if we press Shift and Erase goes to the system settings, and we can change a whole bunch of stuff, right? So if we go into pad, we can see, oh, there's the velocity sensitivity settings for the pad. It's off at the moment. I can have high and low, great. So I can pick this. So when it's off, if we go here, there's no velocity sensitivity, right? I can press it harder and the level is the same. If I go into the settings here and go to pad and velocity, then I can turn it on, and then it'll be velocity sensitive. So you can see hopefully from the level that the velocity sensitivity is on. And this affects note repeat. So if you press timing and then a pad, you can get it to repeat, and it then becomes pressure sensitive, which is really nice. So you might want to turn that on and off quickly. And the handy thing is that there's a really easy way to do that. If you go to the Teenage Engineering website and you go to section 14 of the guide, you've got the system section here, and there's this table with all this list of codes, and it corresponds to different settings and their different values. So here you can see that 300 corresponds to the pad velocity off, 301 is pad velocity high in the low setting here, and there's all the other different settings too. And where you can do this is you type them in. When you go into system, it'll flash and you can see this little finger, and that means you can type in a number. So if we say 301, enter, then velocity sensitivity comes on. If we go 300, enter, it's off. And so it corresponds to this table here. So it's useful. Some of these things you do actually want to change on the fly, and we're going to come back to some of those in a second. And this can be really handy to do that quickly. The next thing that I want to show you is another one of these settings. If we go in here and we go to sequence, and then we go into that, we've got metronome, and you can have that whether the metronome's on all the time or whether it's only when it's recording or whatnot. But we've also got the scene settings. If we go in there, the option is bar or tick. That's the two ones. So if I go tick and then I play, if I change the scene, right, by holding down main and plus or minus, it'll immediately change. Now that's kind of unexpected behavior for me. I expected it to change at the end of the bar. And that's the setting, the way that I had it on. And so you can, if you set it to bar, then it will do that. It will change at the end of the bar. And so the code for this is 311 is bar, 310 is tick. And so again, if I play now and I change scene, it's only changed at the end of the bar. So this is handy, right? It means that you can do this and then do something else, and you're not stuck just waiting for exactly the right time. But of course, there's nice things you could do performance-wise if it changes immediately. So this is handy. You can turn the setting on and off using those codes there. Okay, so that's the settings, and we're going to come back to this in a little second for lots of other things. But let's talk next about the keys mode. If I go into a melodic sample here and I press key, you can hear that I've got it to a particular scale. It sounds very pleasant and nice. It's a major pentatonic. I'll come back and talk about that in a second. But we can change that, right? We can change it so that its default, for example, is pad, scale, and then we go to 12 tone, enter. And then if we do this, and we're still in the keys mode, right? Because that'll be lights lit up. So that's all the the white keys and the black keys on a piano, you're going up in order basically. So all the sharps and flats as well. And that means that this is great. It's very flexible because you can get weird and interesting chords if you're that way inclined. But it's kind of inconvenient because it's got some horrible intervals, right? So you might want to just be able to bash away and not have those horrible intervals, press the wrong notes by accident. So you can change it to different things. The quick setting is 310 is 12 tone, 311 is major. So this is probably what, very nice and harmonious, happy sounding. The Ionian mode is the major scale, right? So, and you can do the same again if we go 312, then you've got minor, and that's the natural minor. You can also go, and I can't remember what the code is, so we'll just actually go into the menu. If we go to pad and then scale and then go all the way up to the top, you've got major pentatonic and minor pentatonic. Now if we put these on, you can see there's 5 notes in the scale. It's a pentatonic scale, 5 notes in it. So what's nice about this is that there's no harsh intervals with it. Or definitely not to the same extent as the major, or when you're playing with the full chromatic 12 notes, 12T. So you can you can mash away on that and it sounds nice. It'll always sound quite nice. And it's the equivalent of doing, well, you can change the key of it, but it's the same as doing all the black notes on the keyboard. That's a pentatonic scale. So if we go in here, we can also change the key, as I mentioned before. So back to pad, key, and we can set whether we want it to be E or D, or here we go D flat, for example, which is equivalent to C sharp. And you can see this. If I go back and let's do 311 to go back to a major scale. There's some other nice things as well. If you hold this down, it'll tell you that it's D flat, that the key you're in. You can change the octave. So this is handy. You can also change where the tonic falls, where the root note falls. If I hold this down, you can see it flashing here, and that tells me that number 1 is the root note. Well, I've turned off keys mode. Right, so that's that there. But if I do 5, that'll be the root note. And that means I can get lower register down below it, but it won't go as high. Or I can put it down here. And I can get high. I can get almost 2 octaves. So it just depends what chords you want to play, right? Where it would be handy to move it around and put it somewhere else. And that's the default position. It's quite nice. That's where I'm used to it being now, which is very handy. So you can change this, and it's very useful when you're playing sort of with performance or you're just recording stuff. That's the keys mode, and some useful things in there. And if you've got your systems codes, and remember there's that table of them on the Teenage Engineering website, you can change the keys and stuff very quickly. So you could go from the major to the relative minor, or you could go around the circle of fifths or something like this. If you changing the key and making sure that you're in there, and it's much easier to play along with it and get some interesting songs out of it. The next thing I want to mention are all related to performance. And the first thing that you want to do, and I should have done immediately, to be honest, because I don't want to ruin this because I'm currently working on it. There is a lock mode. Now, say that you're giving this to your child or your friend to play around and mess about with, and you don't want to change any of your projects. You don't want to delete them or whatnot. Or you want to perform and you don't want to change the settings, or you want to revert them back. There is a mode, lock mode, which will not save any of the changes you make. So if you hold main, turn on the power, it'll turn on and you'll see lock. And now, if I change it, so let's say that I'm going to mute the drums, so I can hold A, and then that'll be this is the group level, and that's across the whole project. I've muted them. Oh great, they've gone. And but I don't want that to happen now. I want that to go back. Well, if I just turn this off and turn it back on again, it's back, right? They're unmuted now. Hopefully you can hear the kick in the background there. So lock mode is very handy. and it can save you from messing everything up. The next thing is an interesting thing I couldn't see in the manual anywhere. This is, and let's go to this one for it, and we're going to turn this down so you can hear it a bit better, and actually because it doesn't affect MIDI instruments. There's this like time bend, pitch bend, and pitch and time. If you're a main and you press minus and plus, you can nudge the tempo and it will tweak the pitch as well. So that's kind of interesting. You might have I've not found a use for it yet, but you might have it so it's a particular, for a particular part of a song or something, spice up a wee bit. The next thing is soloing, and you can solo groups. So let's say I want to solo the drums. If I hold effects and press A, it will solo just the drums. Or C, I've got my melodic sample here. But you can actually do it even more granularly than that. And again, I've not seen this anywhere in the manual. And I will say that it did mess something up once when I did it. I think I might have been on a different menu or something like this, so be careful with this. But Shift, and you hold the particular track, that is the pad that you've got something on, you can solo that. So it'll only play that kick there, or I can have the kick and the snare, and but the hi-hat's off. Bring them all in, just the hi-hat. So this is handy, right, for performance. You can just get everything out. You can just take a selection of them or whatnot. I don't think you can mix those together, but it would require a lot of fingers to do it anyway. But yeah, that's soloing groups. So you can do with effects to solo a particular group or a track with Shift and the track. So yeah, that's a nice sort of handy tip for it. The other thing you can do is you can change the group volume, right? I've already kind of shown that. But if I say I want to tweak this down, this is project wide, so you can bring this down and then I can change, right? It's still quiet. But I can bring this up and down. Let's bring up the external synth. So we can adjust the level across the pattern, right? So that's not just it's not just on that particular scene or whatnot. It's not the sample. It's for that whole group across the whole project. So that's a really nice sort of performance thing to have as well. The other thing is live input. So you can have. So let me see. I've got this Behringer Neutron up here. I love this wee synth, semi-modular synth, very reasonably priced. Sounds absolutely great. A full analog signal path, I think. Analog delay circuit and all sorts of stuff like this. Now I'm going to put the VCA bias up so that you can hear a kind of drone. Now you can modify this. You can change the input level. If you're a main, then the orange one will change the input level. So you can just play it in the background, and you can also put in the effects of it. So I've got this is on delay at the moment. So this is color or something I think it's called, and it changes a bunch of parameters. But you can turn it off or you can turn it down, or whatever you like. So this is handy when you're performing to sort of tweak the levels of things as they're coming in. I'll turn that VCA bias down now. Okay, so that is yeah, that's the live input effects. So you can have that. You don't need to just sample from it, which is handy and nice and useful. But you don't need to just do that. You can also use yeah, just change the level of it and play along. You could connect a MIDI keyboard to that, or you can just, as I've done here, just use the MIDI group. I'll mention this quite quickly as well. You can set, how do you set to control a MIDI device? Now I've got this set here. If I go into, I've got that loaded. Let's change it down. So I've got this controlling it, right, and I've sequenced this in as well. How do you do that? Well, it's dead straightforward. MIDI out is going from here into a converter, which is then going into a MIDI cable, which is going into my neutron. The line out is going from my neutron back into here, into the input, and that's how it's controlling it there. You can control it using the keys by setting, let's say, for example, we turn off keys mode. Let's go to 5 and say we want 5 to be able to control it now as well, for some reason. What we can do is we go onto that, we go sound, 5, sound edit, and then we can go across to MIDI, MID, And then these two, the orange and the black knobs, will control the channel. So if I put this to channel 14, which is what I've got the neutron set to listen to, we can hear that it's now active. If I try a different channel, it won't work because it's only listening on that channel. And you can also use this knob to set the default note. So you can set it to be like E2, and this is when you're not in keys mode. It will do this. You can see I've got B4 here, but actually I don't really want that. I might put it down to the D flat 3. So you can do it like this, right, and have individual pads. Of course, you can also just press keys mode, and that will set where the note is, basically. So this is a handy thing. It's very easy to set up MIDI to control lots and lots of different things. If you've got a drum machine and it's got listening to lots of different channels for the different drums, so maybe like the kicks on channel 1 or whatever, or you've got a bunch of VSTs on a computer or something like this, you can set it so that you've got individual pads that are controlling each of those things. And it's just really nice. And it adds a lot of flavor to your song, right? You can have additional voices and things like that too. So that's how you can control MIDI with that as well, and you can do the live input. You can change the level of it using this here. So that's the kind of performance-y type ones, and kind of controlling external devices. The last thing I'd like to mention is sort of again related to that, and we're going to do sampling. So sampling, the major one, the most important one for me, or the one I found most handy. If I go here, let's just pick an empty one. So I've got a melodic sample here, but let's just pick this empty slot here. If I go into the sound menu and say I want to sample to that slot, but I want to put the sample at a particular place. Now, you can go to all sorts of different places here, right? Cycle down through the samples. If you press and hold this, you can do 1. And that'll be just a kick. And you can go up all the way through these, audition them, and find the sample you want. But say you're wanting to record a sample. Well, if you press sound and then enter one, say 900, that doesn't currently have a sample recorded on it, and when it's flashing like this, it shows you it's free. If you do that, then press sample, and then we're going to record from them. I've disconnected the input here. And so we're going to, let's have a look and see. Let's put the threshold up and the gain up a bit so that it's recording me. Right, I'm going to do something like this. So we've keyed in the code that we want. We press sample, and then we can sit and hold here. Bah. Bah, 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 bah. Okay, great. So now, if we go back to the, if we go back to sound, you can see sample 900 is now our sample there. And we can do that with anyone who wants. So we put it to a particular place. That means you can keep your samples organized, which is handy. And again, if we go, this one was already set to 900. They're all set to 900 because I've done this before. I practiced this video before, and I've set a lot of these to 900. So that's kind of handy, right? You can record to a specific slot. Related to that, there is this fantastic EP sample tool, right? You can see at the moment, let me see, this is, if you go to the apps EP-sample-tool on the Teenage Engineering website, you can get all of these different things. And what's really handy is you can actually, let me see, I need to refresh this maybe. Oh. Sample tool, sorry, I pressed the wrong button there. Yep, there we go, it's loading it. So if you load up, it's not quite connected, just refresh it and it'll work. And if I press something here, let's go in here. You can see it changes, it shows you the sample, it shows a waveform for it, which is very nice. And so you can see what you've got loaded into different places. Let's go to here. We can see that there's the blah that I recorded. You can audition different things here and scroll through them. These are other samples that I've made. These were ones that I did before I was putting them in defined places. Up here, we can see if we go to 900, there's that sample that I had there. And you can download this if you really wanted to. You could download that and save it to your device by pressing this little download button, or X to delete it off of the off of that slot. So it's an easy way to look through the samples that you've got and see where everything is. Yeah, so the EP sample tool, really nice for keeping everything organized. And don't forget that you want to record to a particular slot, sound, type in the number, so 901, then press sample, and then you can just sample to that. So that's very handy. So that's it, I think, for all of the tips for this video that I wanted to mention. Thank you so much for listening. If you found any of them useful, please give the video a like. Consider subscribing. I have more videos that are just random stuff as I'm making music and playing around with electronic instruments. Share with me any tips that you've got down below, and we'll all learn together. So yeah, thanks again. Thanks for watching this, and check out some of my other videos if you've not seen them before. Thanks very much. Bye.